Cool. All right, Friday, January 1st, 2021. Here we are, new year, new us, same us. Um, so, Mike, maybe today we can get into like trends for 2021. I think one of the trends that we saw in 2020 that we were talking about that is continuing to play out, that will play out in 2021, is what we're seeing in the economy and what we're seeing with these new digital currencies really taking the place in the spotlight now around the world. Right before this, I didn't hit record, but we were talking about New York City and the mad dash and escape that's happening, where people are leaving LA and they're leaving New York, they're heading down to Miami and they're heading down to Texas, and now, like you were saying, Cuomo's really got a mess on their hand down there in the city. But from your perspective, living in Jersey, like how do you see 2021 shaping out for the city down there?
Well, I know where I'm at. I'm in Bergen County, which is right over the George Washington Bridge. Um, it's relatively easy to get into Manhattan. It takes me 5 minutes because I'm right next to the bridge. And because of the proximity and the simplicity of that, of the commute, and also, there's more houses here. This is all homes, houses, townhouses, stuff like that. You're seeing a lot of people coming in from Manhattan and buying property here. It's such a hot market that you hardly see houses for sale because they're just snatching them up. Some people are just buying it cash because there's a lot of money in Manhattan and they're coming here. Now, there's people that I've seen that are selling their houses by themselves without a real estate agent because it's so hot here
Mhm.
when it comes to the market. So that tells me that there's a lot of people that need to stay in the region either because they got family ties, they need to come still to the office. They can't work from home. They do not want to live in Manhattan after staying there for so long under COVID lockdowns. So those people are moving here. So we've had a good situation here. Now, there's a lot of people that are moving from here down to Florida, a lot,
Mhm.
down to Miami, to other areas of Florida. Um, but we haven't really noticed it in my area too much because it's being replaced by these Manhattanites and Brooklynites. But once that trend cools off, I think more people will continue to move to Florida, and then New Jersey will continue to deplete, which they're saying. New Jersey is one of the top states that's been depleting. It's depleting its population. I don't know what the medium term effects of that is going to be. I know revenue will go down for taxes, but I know Florida continues to grow. They're the second leading state with influx of population. Texas is number one, and I think Texas will lead the way in 21, 22, 23,
Mhm.
all the way through the decade. So, and I know Connecticut's in the same situation as well.
Yeah, for the first time in years, we've had net positive new residents month over month. I feel like my whole life living in Connecticut up here, it's always been like you see commercials each month about more residents are leaving, more residents are leaving. Like we never have new residents coming in, but ever since March, there's been a massive flood. I've had buddies that have lived in the city that are now living in Connecticut, and it's mostly because they can work remotely, and because they
Yeah.
work remotely, they have the ability to have this different lifestyle with cheaper cost of living, which is a big factor. So it's kind of interesting how that plays out. Miami being one of the hubs that's really scooped up a lot of these industries, like Goldman Sachs. I know they moved their headquarters down to Miami. Miami's also been really attractive to a lot of people in the crypto community, a lot of the crypto startups. And their mayor down there, I think, is actually talking about potentially putting 1% of the city's treasuries in Bitcoin as a strategic hedge against inflation going into 2021 as well. So it's really interesting to see how that's playing out. So, I mean, maybe we see Miami become one of the first cities in the U.S. that really adopts Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and, you know, tries to use that to better their finances and other things. Like we've also seen that with publicly traded companies now. Like MicroStrategy was the first publicly traded company to buy around $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin because the CEO says that he's worried that he's going to lose 50% of the purchasing power of his cash on his company's balance sheet over the next couple of years because of inflation.
Yep, it's a great hedge. The dollar keeps going down in value, which people aren't understanding that's happening currently. And places like Miami, they they are not traditionally known to have balanced budgets, but being able to hedge yourself with Bitcoin as it continues to go up because of these massive purchases, I think that is a key for Miami to continue going forward. The only thing that Miami has going against it is the flood situation and the infrastructure.
Hmm.
Their infrastructure is aged. They haven't done a great job on building upon that. And on top of that, they don't have a lot of houses and supply. They have a lot of apartments. That's a situation they have to look into. So, but Bitcoin is actually it's doing a lot for many countries on top of cities. So we're gonna see how Bitcoin goes forward. Now, I know we're talking about crypto, Joe. What do you see going forward with Monero?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's interesting you asked that. So today, literally 3 hours ago, Bittrex, which is a fairly large cryptocurrency exchange, announced that they're delisting Monero, Zcash, and Dash for trading. So they're no longer going to list it on their exchange. We're seeing the fight against privacy happening right now in real time. And I knew, like, in Bitcoin and the dollar was one of the themes we talked about coming into 2020 being a big issue, and that has played out. 25%, I think it was a little more than 25% of all the US dollars that have ever been created were created in 2020. And we're looking at 2021 having even more of the dollar created because of these stimulus packages that we're seeing. Like now we're seeing these stimulus packages created at $1 trillion a pop, 1.5 trillion dollars a pop. So like I'm starting to see now that the US government and countries around the world are they're saddling up and they're getting ready for the transition. 2 weeks ago, FinCEN, which is a US regulatory agency, made an announcement that they want cryptocurrency exchanges to make their clients identify what they're calling non-custodial wallets or self-custody wallets, which is a bullshit term. What they're pretty much like a Bitcoin wallet. You don't need to. You can create a Bitcoin wallet out with no information. You don't have to link your identity to it. That's just how the technology is set up. But what they want now is they want to try to track all of the payments that are happening on Bitcoin. Um, and what that's telling me is that like they're getting ready for this wave of adoption that's happening, and they want to be able to track and trace payments just like they do today with the traditional financial system. So that's news. FinCEN, they're trying to pass this through Congress right now. They're taking comments from the public, so we'll have to see more on that. But what does that mean for Monero? That means that we're like, if that's happening with Bitcoin, that means that with Monero and privacy currencies, there's an all out like war almost against them right now, if you will. Like
Yeah.
the IRS had a $650,000 bounty for anyone that could trace transactions on the Monero blockchain. And so they put that out like 2 or 3 months ago for pretty much anyone that could create the technology to do it. And now today we're starting to see that some exchanges are starting to delist them. Um, uh, the other news with Monero, though, which is interesting because as this is happening, the entire black market, the dark web, is adopting it even more and more. There was news that came out this week that one of the largest darknet marketplaces, the White House Market, completely dropped Bitcoin payments and they're only accepting Monero payments now. So, like there's a saying with technology that where, if the criminals are using it, it probably means it's good. And people need to remember that like Bitcoin was originally first used on the dark web and that was adopted first. So, I think that we're going to see a continued fight against privacy, digital privacy. So, I think Monero is going to be targeted. I think that Bitcoin addresses are going to be targeted. I think that there's going to be a lot of surveillance happening there, and we're going to see this kind of war play out going into 2021 and 22, where countries and people are going to decide what they want to use, and and countries are going to try to regulate around that. But the fact is that you know whatever's being adopted the most, it's almost like the inevitable thing where it's you can't stop uh, the ball rolling down the hill, right? Um, but yeah, it's interesting, man. It's really really interesting to see it all play out now. My take on it is this: is that we know where the dollar stands today, right? We know that the whole trade war is really a currency war. That's really what we're seeing, and what's happening now with the adoption of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. That's a part of the currency war too. Like, I don't think this is just going to play out between countries. I think it's going to play out with people too, because you have the central banks and the old powers that are trying to maintain their stance in the world, but you have now all of these cutting edge new technologies that are coming out and is fighting that power structure or that power struggle, and and we're learning in real time now what people want to use, and it's not the dollar anymore. Or I don't know. I don't know, Mike. What do you think about the whole privacy attacks? Because we also saw the Earn It Act come out this year too. It seems like everything has been adding up to what's going on now. So the Earn It Act was to remove encryption for all U.S. tech companies. So there's no more encryption, which means that everything online is being scanned and monitored now, which it was before. We probably knew that, but it's openly being done that way now. We've got the US dollar going through massive inflation now. We've got countries around the world creating their own digital currencies and other decentralized digital currencies that exist, right? Like Bitcoin and Monero. And now you've got the US government that is actively trying to trace and track all these transactions that are happening on the blockchain. So it just seems like this wave is coming, and it seems like, in my opinion, like we're gonna see a push to not have privacy focused applications and the internet to be less private and more centralized and more controlled. And I don't know what the outcome looks like. I think that's what we're going to see happen here is the fight between privacy versus non-privacy. Um, but what's your stance on what you've been seeing out of 2020 with all the privacy related issues, whether it's technology or laws, and then kind of what do you think going into 2021?
I think government is trying to take away privacy. Same thing with corporations. I think it's not beneficial for them, which is why, since 2001, with the Patriot Act all the way until now, with all of the different types of systems they've implemented and what corporations have been doing with sharing our data without, really our consent. Um, I think the monetary system is just the next step to that. So I think, the dollar, especially the digital dollar, is going to be something that will be similar to Bitcoin. I don't know how it's if they're going to have it, if they're going to have a certain amount, if there's going to be a reserve or anything with that digital dollar. But I think the digital dollar is going to be something similar to Bitcoin, and that it won't be privacy based. And I think they will try to implement laws to block people from using things like Monero.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's look, Swiss banks, we've had Swiss banks, we've had the Cayman Islands for many, many generations. There's always going to be dark money. There's always going to be a way around the system. And and the reason why I say that is because you're still having agencies like the CIA and Mossad and all of these other intelligent agencies that use black money to fund, secret operations. So, that's why Bitcoin was a big deal, not only for, like criminal enterprises that the government would say, but it's also was being used by many of these
Hmm.
agencies. So I think that'll always be something like Tor, right? Tor, the government really is what created that system, and other people use it for many other reasons in the dark web and everything. So we could continue seeing that Monero. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it hard for people like you and I to own Monero, but not too hard that nobody could use it.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where by making it illegal, you're almost you're validating the technology, and you're like, it's like the whole red button thing, right? Don't push the red button. Red button's there though, and then
Yeah, the
and
red
then and
button's
then
there,
you
exactly.
know, and it's like that's kind of how I see it too. Is that by making it illegal, you're almost bringing more attraction or more attention to it. It's a big fight in the crypto community between like the Bitcoin community and like the well, first of all, the Bitcoin maximalists believe that it's Bitcoin at the end of the day. That's all. That's all that's going to exist. That's all you need to accumulate. And then there's the other side of the coin, which are more like the crypto anarchists and a lot of the ANCAPs and a lot of the cypherpunks that agree with privacy and technology that are pushing for something like Monero to be used. And that's one of the things that they were saying is that if you make the technology illegal, you're validating that it works, and you're going to make it more desirable to own one way or another. Um, but like right now, we're seeing a small washout in the price because you know it's FUD.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's hard to know what's gonna happen with crypto just because it is an area that moves so fast day to day. It's hard to keep track accurately, and we don't know what the governments around the world are doing.
Mm-hmm.
We have China trying to launch their cryptocurrency. That's another
Which
play, right? That's
they're
gonna
very
really,
close, by the way. I think they're. I
yeah,
saw a news article. They're like they think within a few months here. Like they've been using it for, um, inside China. They've been testing it, with, lotteries, so local lotteries, and then they're able to just get act like whoever wins the lottery, it's fast transfer, that kind of thing.
yeah. I think that's gonna obliterate a lot of other cryptocurrencies out there. Not so much Bitcoin itself, but more the other, like Litecoin and all these other types of alternative coins, because you're gonna have the power of China behind it. Not only that, I know we're talking about decentralization, but with this, you have a population of over 1 billion that are super tech savvy, and they're already used to buying everything with their phone. They go to their local merchant. It could be a food stand, it could be, somebody on the street, and everyone just uses the barcode on WeChat and they purchase. That's, they're already used to this type of system.
Mm-hmm.
All we know is that they're gonna really succeed with that, which means that it's gonna put some strain on the US economic system and the monetary system, and then they will react to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where we're going to see the differences here. We'll see a lot going on.
This is Kaiser's dubbed that moment when that happens when China launches that digital yuan as the equivalent of D-Day for World War II. And we talked about this in past episodes, but if you think about it, it's like what was D or I'm sorry, not D-Day, Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor for the U.S. was what brought us into the war, right? It was what justified the entry into the war. If China launches their digital yuan and they now have they've now China launches digital yuan, which they have economic agreements with all these countries around the world, and those countries will adopt that and start using that. The U.S. they'll have no choice. That will be a moment like that where, you know, they'll have to decide: do we want to try to maintain U.S. dollar dominance? And if we do, then that's going to be conflict. But maybe though, what we're seeing, especially with this new administration, we don't have to go into this a lot, but maybe there's that transition, that like more that peaceful transition or the handover to China in this case.
Yeah, there could be some type of handover, but it's going to be hard to say
Yeah.
because, at the same time, the United States will want to, have their digital dollar, and that's not the issue. The issue is going to be once you have a digital dollar and you have a digital, you know, yuan
Mhm.
out in China, now it becomes, well, which is going to be the reserve currency in the world? That's going to be where
Right.
we are not really sure.
Right.
Because is the United States just going to easily hand over that to China? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to be that easy. You know, how is oil going to be traded?
Mhm.
No, like dollars isn't worth shit. People are still buying T-bonds because it's like, well, United States is still a leading country. It's better than buying T-bonds from like another nation. Um, T-bills, I mean.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we have to really figure out what's happening day to day with the monetary system, and we'll have a better pulse to what's really happening throughout the world.
Well, I think
I
it's
don't know.
probably safe to say that no matter what, going into 2021, we're going to probably continue to see the trend towards digital currencies. And
Yeah, bro, that's it. It's digital
yeah,
currency. That's what it
that's
is.
probably
That's
the
it.
name of the game for 2000.
Paper money that's gonna be gone with the dodo bird.
Yep.
It's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's what we could see. I think honestly, this is what we got, bro. This is what we have to look into.
Yep. Yeah. Cool, man. So that's it. So digital dollar, we're seeing more digital currencies 2021. Um, Politics, I think it's safe to say that, there's going to be this continued narrative about China continuing to rise as a world power. So that'll continue to be a trend. But I think the thing that everyone needs to watch and follow is that digital yuan, because that's probably what's going to indicate, when you start to see more geopolitical movement happening, is once that thing is launched, if it happens in 2021, which it's looking like it might, that might be when the countdown actually starts. You need to start watching the South China Sea and a lot of what's going on there with the trade routes.
Yeah, and you also have to look into Venezuela, be in Iran looking into maybe using that currency as well. So, all right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoy the new year. I hope, we could, continue this fight throughout this new year. And many wishes to everyone.
That's it, y'all. We'll keep you up posted in 2021. Hope everyone has a great new year, and we'll definitely be here with you the entire time.
Definitely.
All right, y'all.
All right, guys.
Peace.